You're taking poker really seriously and you've got goals and ambitions and dreams that you hope to achieve, the chances are that you won't. The chances are that you will fail. The odds are stacked massively against you from the get-go. There are 10 things that make it very likely that before you've watched this video, you're a massive dog to succeed at the game, and they are as follows. They are rake, the gambler's mindset, a lack of proper poker education, a lack of ruthless aggression, especially when bluffing against capped ranges, a lack of objectivity, a lack of volume, a lack of studying, results orientation, a lack of greed, particularly when value betting, and finally, impatience. These things sink the ship of so many poker players who are trying to make it in the game. Let's sit down together, let's talk about it thoroughly, let's draw upon my 15 years experience trying to get people to overcome these roadblocks, and let's drive up your chances of success by many orders of magnitude. I can't guarantee you success if you watch this video all the way to the end, but I can promise you that your chances will go up significantly. Let's get into it, let's unpick these things one by one. If it wasn't for the rake, more than half of you watching this by far would be winning poker players. If it wasn't for the rake, half of all people who ever played poker would be winning poker players. But because of rake, because you're paying something like 8 BB per 100 at 25 NL, for example, you are, on average, if you're just a random poker player, an 8 BB per 100 loser, that's a really expensive hobby. That's going to be something that's kind of unsustainable and probably makes you quit the game really quickly because you just simply can't afford to play the game. You're just losing too much. You have to be really quite good at poker relative to the competition to be a 3 BB per 100 loser. To be a break-even poker player at 25 NL, you need to be way better than most of the 25 NL pool. Rake puts you at a massive disadvantage to begin with, and it creates the sort of environment where you have to be exceptional to succeed. So if you compare poker to something in like the career realm, poker is far more like trying to be a really successful business person than it is like just trying to climb your way up some job bracket where promotions inevitably come if you're just competent. For example, competence at poker is not enough because competence in the workplace might mean that you're better than 75% of other people, of other employees, and you therefore just ascend the ladder naturally. In poker, if you're better than 75% of other poker players, you're going to be a losing player. Absolutely brutal, but it's completely true. So just know that going into poker, you're not just trying to be better than people, you're trying to be in the top few percent of people in your pool, and in like the top 10% of regs in your pool. And that's no easy feat these days. So just know that going into this, and judge yourself less harshly, therefore, if you've not succeeded yet. Let's get to the other 9 points. Let's try and get you succeeding. Point number 2, the gambler's mindset. This is an absolute killer. This is insidious leak, and it's hardwired into the very fabric of being a human for so many people. Now, let me be clear here. I don't mean that everybody who has the gambler's mindset fairly frequently in poker is a gambling addict or has a big problem in that sense. What I mean is that you're treating poker like it's gambling. Here are some examples of what it is to have the gambler's mindset, and then we'll compare it to the more required professional mindset or athlete's mindset, mental athlete's mindset, if you like. So the gambler's mindset is when your winning sessions make you feel like you're succeeding, like poker is good and it's fun and you want to play more, and your losing sessions make you miserable. They make you crave winning. Maybe you play for longer when you're losing. Just subtle things like playing for an hour when you're winning, but 2.5 hours when you're losing is absolutely concrete proof that you are suffering from this affliction. The gambler's mindset is hoping that you will win, sitting down to play poker for an evening and thinking, God, if I don't win tonight, I'll go to bed really unhappy. And if I do win, I'll go to bed really happy. That is placing your emotional state into the game of poker rather than your own life and your control over it. So the gambler's mindset is an absolute killer. It's what causes tilt. It's what causes people to detach from the game, run away from the game, stop putting in volume, stop studying, be demotivated. The results are just, they have such a massive impact on your life and on your emotional state that you can't really think straight and you can't be objective and you can't just turn up at the table and play your B+ game or A- game or whatever it is you need to play to be a winning player. Instead, your C game or D game or F game appears for long stints and you put in tons of volume playing your worst or close to your worst instead of your best, all because you're losing, and it's set off this domino effect of negativity. The gambler's mindset is something that we need to talk about, guys, in another video. We need to do an entire video on the gambler's mindset. Let me know in the comments if that is something that you would like me to cover. In fact, put a number or multiple numbers in the comment section and request full coverage of any of these issues, and I'll consider it depending on what gets the most sort of votes. Do comment, let me know. Number 3, a lack of proper education. So we've already discussed that poker is much harder than most professions. It's akin to trying to be a successful business person in a competitive market, not just working your way up a steady job ladder. A lack of education makes that kind of impossible for most people, apart from rare poker geniuses. Imagine you wanted to be, I don't know, a surgeon or an accountant or a lawyer. You wanted to have a highly skilled profession that required a great deal of skill and knowledge and required you to be way better than the pack. Well, that's what poker's asking of you. What is your poker education? Ask yourself, what is your credentials in poker? Have you taken extensive poker courses? Have you approached them properly? When I created the Carrot Poker School, I created it because I saw a gap in the market. I wanted to make something that was as rigorous as you would find for a really serious discipline like law. Like if you studied law at Harvard or whatever, I don't know what the best universities for law are, you would get something extremely well thought out and it would turn you into a really good lawyer, probably. So that's what I set out to do. And there are other options out there as well. But the point is that you try to see your poker education like you would see doing a degree, and not just like clicking on YouTube videos. It's okay to watch YouTube videos about poker. In fact, it's a good use of your free time within reason, but it's probably not enough to have a completely unstructured, just click and get some dopamine approach to learning the game. A learn-entertainment approach to the game is not going to cut it. It's amazing, guys, how often I'll get a new student and they're like, I've been playing poker for 6 years, and they will just be lacking the most basic understanding of a fundamental poker concept, like completely. And that's because no one sets it out in a completely structured go from A to B to C type way. Content is random. It might not be right for your level. People pick up little bits and bobs. They misapply it. They just don't have that thorough, rigorous education under their belt, and it's a huge problem. Think about that. Think about actually setting aside some serious study time where you address the fundamentals of the game and make sure that you learn them. Number 4, lack of ruthless aggression. They're not killers. They're not lethal enough at the poker table. They are not picking apart their opponents in spots where the opponent's folding too much. When you open your eyes to where fold equity is way higher than it should be, and you can get that from mass data, courses like Grade E of Carrot Poker School talk about that. You can also get that from communities speaking to lots of other poker players about spots that were overfolded. You can get that from experience by playing a lot of hands. Once you open your eyes to that, once you sort of realize that in a certain spot you require a certain amount of fold equity for bluffing to be break even, or for it to be as good as checking or as good as calling or whatever, and then you realize that you have much more than that, it needs to then activate this green light mode where when you're in those spots, you're sort of just attacking like an absolute maniac and you're not caring about your own range composition or any of those things, but you're going full exploitative. And not enough poker players are just throwing caution to the wind and saying, this is an overfolded spot, I'm bluffing. They're just not doing it often enough. Their red lines are plummeting. They're not harvesting fold equity in spots where it's there for the harvesting. Point number 5, a lack of objectivity. This comes from the fact that when you don't have enough of a sense of community, when you're not working with enough other poker players and you're not sort of entrenched in a network of like-minded poker thinkers, and I was lucky enough to have that at the very beginning. I was part of this place called Flop Turn River, like way back at the start. There were really strong players on there. I've talked about this at great length before. And I was getting feedback from like crushers, like professional poker players of that day. And that was amazing for me. And that community, it was incredible. We played games of Werewolf. We did all sorts of stuff on that forum. We had like a little chat room before the days of Discord or Slack called the IRC Internet Relay Chat or something. And we'd hang out on there and arrange sweats. And it was phenomenal. And that's what I'm trying to do with the Carrot Corner Discord. You know, the Carrot Poker Discord, there's hand channels, there's senseis, there's trusted people who give you feedback. There's study sessions that go on. People arrange sweats. People add each other as friends and work together and form more insulated, tight-knit study groups. I'm trying to recreate the Flop Turn River experience I had back in the days where poker forums were actually a really cool thing. Nowadays, they don't tend to work so well. And that objectivity of working with other people, that's one way you can get that. You can also get that from mass data. You can get that from courses and stuff. But I think when you know how humans think and play the game, when you know where they fold too much, where they bluff too much, where they don't bluff enough, and you know that for sure, the best way to know it for sure is data. Data is extremely valuable in this day and age. Then you just have peace of mind. You just have clarity. You don't need to worry about your own subjective whims or reads of the situation being off, because they will be off. When you're an inexperienced poker player and you're just like, I don't think villain's going to fold here after they call the turn because they filtered too much, and you just say that in some random spot, you're just wrong a bunch of the time. The data just says that you're wrong. And you can feel like, oh, they won't fold here, or I won't get paid off by worse here. And you can get all these negativity biases, or maybe positivity biases, where you're like, oh, I think I'm going to make him fold X, or I'm going to go really huge for value and target this one hand. And you can do all of that. And very often you're just way off the mark. You're just wrong. When you're inexperienced and you just don't have an objectively strong foundation, you just don't have the street smart experience to know where people are bluffing too much, not bluffing enough, etc. You're just going to be calling and folding and bluffing and value betting in the wrong spots with the wrong sizes. The other day I was teaching this really like strong, very promising, very young poker student that I teach 1-to-1. And this guy's going to be really good one day. And he's probably watching this thinking, oh yeah, this is me. You know, he's on a downswing at the moment. Now he definitely knows it's him. But what he really needs to get under his belt is just experience of like the data and the general patterns of how humans play, because his reads are often terrible. They're often just way off the mark. They're like really highly assumptive, and his understanding of the game and what to do with reads and how the mechanics of the game work and how EV functions and what you should do if X were true is really good. But X, he's just often wrong about X in the first place, right? So he'll say something like, well, in this spot, I think he's just bluffing a lot. He's just trying to make me fold with the small turn bet and big river bet, so I'm just going to call. But actually, it's triple Broadway, and the guy barreled off in a 3-bet pot. And it's like, even if that player is aggressive, triple Broadway is massively underbluffed in a 3-bet pot. If you don't know that, that's probably because you've never sat down with data or worked with a data course or data coach and never really learned those patterns. So when you get that under your belt, you get this objectivity that's just so important for success, because you just cannot trust yourself, guys. You can't trust yourself to just instinctively know where people are doing X too much or Y too little. Okay, point number 6, lack of volume. Why does this happen? One, it just requires more time than you think to put in volume. Even if you're playing fast fold poker, it still takes a load of time. If you're table selecting, playing live twice a week, it takes forever to build a good sample. And because of rake, point number 1, it all comes back to rake at the end of the day. Because you're paying 8 BB per 100 or whatever in this big tax right off the get-go, you then need to win at a much higher clip to make money than that. And if you're beating people by 12 BB per 100 pre-rake, you're only winning at 4 after rake. And it takes a hell of a long time to make a good amount of money at 50 NL, winning at 4 BB per 100. It just takes ages. It takes ages live too, because you play like one hand an hour, right? Okay, it's like 30 or 27 or something, but you get the point. So lack of volume is a huge problem. You probably need to actually cordon off time for this and do as I say, not as I do here. I'm extremely guilty of this myself. I'm trying to play a bit more this year. God, am I finding it hard, because to sit down and just play for like 2 hours, you need to have no other commitments. You can't be coaching. You can't be, you know, having to make YouTube content. You can't be branding a thumbnail. You have to be just focused on the game. You need to do a warm-up. You need to do a review. You need to take a break in between. It takes so much time to properly put in poker in a way that allows you to play your B+, A- game, whatever your average level of game that's acceptable to you is. So plan out your volume, take time, talk to family about it, talk to friends. Don't just book a social commitment because you want to. If you're really serious about poker, you're going to have to make a ton of sacrifices. This isn't in the list, but another reason people really fail at this game is they're just not intentional enough about the fact that poker requires sacrifice. It really, really does. There's so many things that I have not been able to do with my life that I would have otherwise done, because I became a full-time poker coach and business owner and coaching site creator. And it took so much of my time, but it was really worth it. And I'm so glad I did it. But I had to sacrifice so much stuff. And because poker's a game, they don't anticipate that it requires the same level of sacrifice that a job requires, but it really does. It's just like having your own business. Being a grinder, being a poker player is like having your own business. You just have to start saying no to lots and lots of other stuff, even stuff you really want to do. Number 7, lack of studying. Some people buy our courses, and our courses are not cheap. Well, some of them are cheaper than others, but overall, if you take the full Carrot Poker School, it's a hefty investment, you know? It's really investing in your poker future. And back in the day when we had like downloadable formats and stuff, before we had it all inbuilt onto Carrot Corner, we would be able to see when people downloaded the thing that they bought. And a somewhat shocking amount of the time, people wouldn't download the thing they bought for like 6 months or ever. It happened, like, more than you would think. Obviously, a minority of the time, but way more than you would think. People would make an impulse purchase and just never watch it. And it's like, wow. Like, it's like signing up for a university course and just never going to a lecture and just not doing it. Okay, I did that twice when I was really young, but I was a bit of an idiot then. Anyway, you know, we got there in the end. Right, Dad? Results orientation is the next thing I want to talk about. You have to make time for study, you have to make time for volume, and then you have to dodge the ever impending bullet of results orientation. It's just going to like ruin everything for you, because you will think you're playing badly when you're losing, and you will think you're playing well when you're winning, and it creates such a distortion, like such a dysmorphia, skill dysmorphia in poker. That's a real thing, that you go insane and you lose touch with reality. What a really strong pro can do that a recreational player with a more recreational mindset can't do is understand that they're playing well when they're running badly and just keep putting in volume. And maybe they're not playing their A game, but if a strong pro plays their B game when running really badly, and they do that for 2 weeks of like the worst downswing of the year, they will perform so much better during that downswing than the more recreationally minded non-athlete sort of poker player who plays their F game. And that player loses 48 buy-ins and the pro loses like 19 or 20. And then when the upswing comes, the pro's up a few K and the recreational's still down. Not even because of poker skill, but because of not being able to play anywhere near your best when running bad. You're not going to play your best when you're running badly. Very few of us are. But you can play something a bit closer to it. Even if you're playing your C game instead of your E game when you're running bad, that's still a huge achievement, right? It still really, really helps. Number 9, a lack of greed, particularly pertaining to value betting. So I had a comment actually in my last video that I put out, and the commenter said this. And just before I get into it, this comment really rubbed me up the wrong way. Like I'm pretty thick-skinned these days. If someone's just like, lol, lol, bro, you're bad at poker, you scammer, I don't actually care about that. It doesn't bother me. But when someone insults my integrity, like my sort of academic integrity as a teacher, I get pretty pissed off, especially because I'll be honest with you guys, I get frustrated with YouTube sometimes, because sometimes I put out content that I think is really, really good, and for whatever reason it doesn't kick off, because maybe it's just the algorithm isn't pleased with it and it just doesn't show it to that many people, and it doesn't really get going. And that last video I put out about being a poker apex predator, maybe the branding was off, or maybe like the thumbnail wasn't right, I don't know what it was, but it didn't really do amazingly well. Even though I put like a ton of effort into it, I really brought my A game to that video. I thought my editor brought his A game as well, did a fantastic job. Editor, take a bow. But this guy said, a year ago, betting according to the strength of our hand was a fish play on this channel. Let's just jump in right there. No, we never ever said that. In fact, GTO is based on betting the strength of your value hand and getting what it's worth. So when you have a set on the river on a dry board, you shove for like 3x pot, and when you have top pair, you B75. You don't want to switch that around just to become like unpredictable or pseudo balanced or something like that. It doesn't work like that. We have always maintained that like value hands crave certain sizes of pot, and we bet bigger with bigger value hands and smaller with smaller value bets. We balance each of those with bluffs if we're playing a GTO strategy. But when it comes to value betting, we do size our value bet to what they're worth. So when you have a really good hand, guys, when you have a hand that is worth a gigantic pot and you can put all your money in and still be a big favorite when called, you should be building that gigantic pot. And whether you do that right away on the flop isn't so important, but you do have to make up for it later in the hand. So you need to go ahead and like overbet the river with a really good hand, especially against like calling stations, but even against average players too. You need to get what the hand is worth. And this leak that holds people back is that they just don't do that. They're betting too small. They're favoring being called at all costs. They want the dopamine. They want the reward. They're not willing to say, I'm going to prioritize my magnitude, not my frequency. This is in the Carrot Poker School at like 3 different times. You have greed theorem in grade 2, glutton theorem in grade 3, just the grade 1 lecture 2, which is all about just sizing a value hand on the turn, and in particular the river, to build bigger pots with bigger hands. It's literally how we've always taught the game. And this commenter has said, a year ago, betting according to the strength of our hand was a fish play on this channel. Today we bet small second pair turn, and it's an obvious predator mentality. Yeah, the hand he's referring to, we just value bet a bit thinner than, like, we could have checked the hand, and if we were building just a big bet or a check, we would have checked the hand, but because Willem was recreational, we decided to go for thin value instead. That's all we did. We just made like a deviation. I don't see how that in any way flies in the face of everything that we teach. They then said, I'm all for evolving and changing your mind, but this lacks intellectual honesty. This is the part that really pissed me off, you know? Because, okay, maybe this is just a really effective troll comment and they just got their claws in and they just got me when I was a bit jaded and tired and, you know, was up early with my son and didn't have a great sleep. Maybe. But what's actually going on here is that, like, people are spending zero time thinking through their comment. They're getting one little flicker of an idea and in their brain, they're just like, posting something without thinking about the effect it's going to have. Like, this is a really severe criticism. This is a real insult to my integrity, and I take it pretty seriously when you publicly insult my integrity. So, yeah, it really rubbed me up the wrong way, and I responded a little bit snippily to this, and then I made a more, like, technical response afterwards. I responded a couple of different ways. I was sort of, you know, jabbing back a little bit. I shouldn't really do that, but I'm human, guys. You know, sometimes people piss me off and they deserve it. And then he says, good formats. Good format with the wolves, crows, and rabbits. You'll get the 8-year-olds moving fast. It's like, So, yeah, it's a separate criticism, basically, that having animals and graphics in the video is like non-serious or detracts from the point of the video. Fair enough. You know, you guys let me know what you think about that. Do you like it when we have like these animations and animals and analogies and stuff? Would you rather it was more to the point? I know that some people will fall on each side of the fence, and that's fine. But I wonder what the majority opinion is there. Anyway, I want to bring up that comment. It's really pissed me off. And I think people need to be like publicly accountable when they write things in public, especially things that are like severe criticisms of not just your content, but your ethics as a poker educator when your whole business and ethos is educating poker in the best way that you can. Pissed me right off. But anyway, back to the point of this video. Sorry for the digression. I feel much better though. I'm glad I ranted about that publicly to you guys. I feel way better. Ah, what an absurd comment. Now it doesn't even seem to bother me. It's just like, this is so absurd. But yeah, lack of greed. It's what we were discussing. And you do want to size your value hands. By the end of the hand, you need to have made a lot of money with your big hands. Don't prioritize the frequency, prioritize the magnitude of the pot you're winning. Fundamental GTO principle, and also something you can take to the extreme in the exploitative domain as well. It applies in both domains. Not a contradiction. And finally, impatience. It will take you a long time to get to where you want to be in cash game poker. You will not bink one tournament and be Jamie Gold in 2006 or whatever it was and just be a millionaire. You will have to grind up through tons of winning months, losing months, break-even months, collapses, mental game epidemics where you just end up like unable to think about the game temporarily while running bad. You will tilt your way through a bunch of sessions. You will blow 30 extra buy-ins and you needed to. You will get disheartened, you will take a hiatus, you will stop studying, you will basically go and do something else instead for a while. Sometimes all of these things are going to set you back. I don't want to say that you should never take a break when things are going badly, but you really do need to just get back in there. You need to set those volume goals. You need to try and stick to them regardless of how poker's going. One of the things I most admire about Ben Ababi is his hair. No, that's not right. He doesn't have much hair. It's actually that he is an absolute beast. When he runs bad, he just keeps grinding, keeps playing, and he plays like very close to his A game, even when running bad. And you know, Ben, if you're watching this, I know you comment a bunch on Carrot Corner videos, and I appreciate it, my guy. But I want you to know that like that's a really, really rare thing. Maybe you already know that, and maybe you guys that watch Ben's channel know how rare a talent that actually is, because people get impatient. They want to succeed right away. And the patience of a player like Ben is absolutely through the roof. It's like, I'm going to play for a year. It wasn't a good year. I ran way below EV. I just like didn't always play my best. It didn't go to plan. I made some money. But I'm just going to come back next year and just do it all again and try even harder. And if more people had that mentality, more people than whatever 4% of you watching this would achieve their poker goals. I hope today has been a fun little heart to heart. I've enjoyed it. It was great to sit down and just chat to you guys. I hope that you've enjoyed this too, and you don't mind some videos like this that don't have any strategic content in them. We do a lot of that, let's face it. We've done 502 videos now. I wonder if I'll just always know how many YouTube videos I've done now that I've hit 500. I'll probably lose count at some point. If you like the way we talk about the game, head on over to carrotcorner.com. Check out our stuff there. We actually still have a code called Stop Losing. I was going to switch off that I advertised a couple of videos ago. I haven't. I've left it on. The code Stop Losing is relevant here. It will get you a bunch of money off. I believe it's 15 or 20%. I don't remember, but plug it in at checkout and you'll see. And yeah, do tell me which of these things you want me to elaborate on in another video. I don't mind doing a video on another 2 or 3 of these. Leave the number down below. Let me know if it resonates with you. Hit the like button if you like the content. Help me keep battling the YouTube algorithm that doesn't like pictures of wolves on a thumbnail. Help me keep battling people like this guy that accused me of intellectual dishonesty. Help me continue to do what I do day after day. Most days I love it. Some days it feels like hitting my face off a wall. Help me out by just saying hello. I appreciate all of your support, and I hope this video has increased your chances of success in the game. See you next time. Bye bye.